A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Search operation for dead and missing in Koslanda landslide called off. Disaster Management Minister confirms that final toll stands at 34 dead and missing. President denigrates development projects that are only politically motivated.
පාලම සැලසුම් කළා. මුල්ගල් 19ක් එක්ක. හැබැයි පාලම නැහැ. මුල්ගල් තියන්න නම් ඉන්නේ නැහැ මම. කරුණාකරලා මගේ නමත් පාවිච්චි කරන්න එපා.
The stance of the UNP on the President's referral to the Supreme Court.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය මේ දැන් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන කාණ්ඩ සම්බන්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Reconciliation is not only between people, you also have to feel peace in your mind. A statement from the German ambassador on the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Mahela Jayawardene becomes the 5th cricketer to surpass 12,000 runs in ODIs.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says the era of deceiving society by initiating unplanned development projects has come to an end. He made this statement at a meeting held in Colombo yesterday.
A gathering of planning and strategy officers was held yesterday at the BMICH in Colombo.
I saw at one location that 19 foundation stones have been laid. The bridge has been planned with 19 foundation stones, but the bridge is missing. A number of years have passed, and when an election is close, the foundation stones are also being laid. We do not know where these plans come from or where the funds for these projects are coming from. We've seen, when we were travelling from district to district, it says that this was declared open by the Prime Minister. Even my name is engraved. This is when I prohibited the laying of foundation stones. And I said I will not be attending programs to lay foundation stones. And I also told them kindly not to use my name. This is how we were able to get away from this foundation stone concept.
මුල්ගල් තියන්න නම් ඉන්නේ නැහැ මම. කරුණාකරලා මගේ නමත් පාවිච්චි කරන්න එපා කියලා. එහෙම කියලා තමයි යන්නම් මුල්ගල් කියන අර සංකල්පය ඉවත් කරගත්තේ යන්නම්.
All what this did for us is that it deteriorated the trust placed in and respect given to politicians and the government. I believe that when such things are done with no plan, as per the whim of various politicians, it is a deception of society. We have finished that political culture. My instructions have been not to undertake any such projects when an election is at hand. Over the recent past, 4 to 5 engineers have been appointed as secretaries. There are many secretaries from those who have come through the administrative service to the Prime Minister's secretary. The government needs to rethink this issue. I strongly believe that the time has come to appoint a commission to obtain the views of all those concerned and introduce a new vision for the public service.
Leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, says that the opposition will not intervene in the president's referral to the Supreme Court on whether he could contest for a third term.
Leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, made these remarks following a discussion this morning in Colombo with the National Lawyers Association. A group including Assistant Leader of the UNP, Ravi Karunanayaka, and members of the National Lawyers Association were present at the event.
If a certain candidate cannot contest and there is opposition to it, then it must be questioned when the nominations are submitted. The law provides an hour of time from when the nominations are submitted for opposition to be announced. That must be decided on by the Elections Commissioner. Once the Commissioner gives his decision, if it is not acceptable, then you go to court. So the Elections Commissioner should have the opportunity to reach an independent decision on a candidate. That opportunity has been deprived by referring this to the Supreme Court. This is an attack on the independence of the Elections Commissioner. At the same time, I would like to state that the UNP will not intervene in court since this is not a matter of public importance for which judicial power can be exercised. The 18th Amendment was poorly drafted. If the law was introduced to allow the President to run for a third term, then it has failed to do that. Parliament should look into this and see who is responsible for this. There was no two-thirds majority to adopt this amendment. They dragged over people from the opposition in order to adopt this. They have been made to face the consequences of dragging over MPs from the opposition.
මේ සම්මත කළා තියෙන්නේ විපක්ෂයේ මන්ත්‍රීවරු ඒ පැත්තට අරගත්ත එකේ විපාකයේ විඳින්න සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Sajid Premadasa, says that the biggest topic in the political agenda is a presidential election. He made this statement at an event held in Abolishing today.
An event was held to distribute drinking water for individuals affected by the drought in Videgama, Abolishing.
The rulers of the country are speaking of the presidential election. When he is asking the Supreme Court to provide advice on whether he can contest for the third term, people in his own district, the land of the miracle, are suffering from hunger and thirst. We spend a huge amount of money for the presidential election. They have rolled up the 17th Amendment to the Constitution according to their own whims. They have brought in the 18th Amendment, and the current president is trying very hard to run for president for a third term.
A media briefing was held in Colombo today to explain about the future steps to be taken to abolish the executive presidency. Chairman of the National Movement for Social Justice, Venerable Mauduluave Sobitathera, was present at the media briefing that was convened by the National Council for a Clean Tomorrow.
Our intention is not to beat Mahinda Rajapaksa and to make someone else sit on the same seat. We have three main policies to win. That is the policy that will win. If the president wants, he can obtain this victory. Implement the 17th Amendment to the Constitution that was amended by your government and abolish the executive presidency. Change the election system. If he takes the initiative, we will support him.
Questions were raised by journalists on whether the Jathika Helarume is planning on leaving the government.
Not
only the JHU, many big figures in the SLFP will leave. This is not a question about staying in the government or going. The government is neither the president nor temple trees. The government is the people who created the people's mandate of the country. Therefore, we are with the people.
If all this changes and if the president listens to us, then we are victorious. And he will be victorious too. We will need a common candidate. Only if the president does not do it.
We are hoping that we will get the strength necessary to change the country's constitution through this huge struggle of the people. Heroes will be born in the manner in which they face this moment.
Taking a look at our developing story for tonight, speaking to Newsfirst, Minister of Disaster Management Mahinda Amarveera said earlier this evening that search operations for the missing from the Koslanda landslide have been called off. Meanwhile, putting to rest the confusion caused by disparities in figures, Minister Amarveera confirmed today that the correct number of dead or missing from the Koslanda media by the landslide is 34.
I did not want to say this until I received proper information, which is due this evening. But I would like to state that according to the reports, it is confirmed that the number of dead or missing individuals is 34. We are happy that the number has reduced in comparison with the initial report. We have received reports that a large number of lives have been saved.
2 bodies and parts of another body that were buried beneath the rubble at Miriyabadda were found today.
2 bodies and a decapitated head were found during search operations that were carried out today. Our correspondent stated that operations to resurface the road that falls across Miriyabadda, joining Punagala and Koslanda, continued today as well. A discussion was held today with the participation of the Acting Divisional Secretary of Haldumulla at the Koslanda Ganesha Tamil College to provide housing for the individuals who lost their homes in the landslide. 57 families are still receiving shelter at the Ganesha Tamil College.
We hope to give a sum of money to the families of the deceased. In the meantime, we will take steps to issue the relevant documents and the death certificates for the missing individuals, considering them as deceased, and to provide a sum of money for their families as well. We have already opened accounts with deposits of 25,000 rupees for all these families, and we have already invited all the philanthropists to deposit more money into these accounts. In addition to this, we will provide housing for all the people. We also hope to provide scholarships for the school students.
Meanwhile, 208 people who were evacuated from Ambagamua, Gadmo Estate and Kalkanda in Nuwara due to the threat of landslides are still receiving shelter at the Gadmo Tamil College. Due to the prevailing rains, a part of the mountain has cracked, and the National Building Research Organisation says that it is a risk to be living below the mountain. Meanwhile, a protest was staged in the Hatton town, citing the need for new houses in safe locations for the people who were displaced in Koslanda and people who were relocated in Hatton due to the threat of landslides.
They promised to build 50,000 houses for the people living in the estate areas. Only 35% work in the fields, while the other 65% works in the state sector and the private sector. Some are self-employed. They must be added to the 50,000, or they must be given lands. This is our main request.
The protesters are also requesting that at least 20 perches be allocated for each family rather than the proposed 7 perches.
Welcome back. You're with News First. Now, speaking in Parliament last evening, UNP Assistant Leader Ravikanda called on Deputy Minister of External Affairs Newmal Perera to table the audit report pertaining to the 2009 refurbishment of the official residence of the permanent representative in Sri Lanka.
Why is the External Affairs Ministry so incompetent? Why is it so politicized? Why are you allowing one person who just doesn't know what diplomacy is able to run rings around the foreign ministry? Table the Mr. P.B. Jayasundara's document that was there in order to say that this particular thing in Geneva, where there was a reconstruction that was going on for 17 million, just given to some person just because he was known to such a LTT sympathizer. And this was repeatedly confirmed by Honorable Vimal Veeravansa in this house, which was basically
what is the point of order,
confirmed by
Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, External Affairs clearly mentioned in this, he is not involved.
That is not a point of order. Honorable, he is going to wind up
basically
now.
telling with all responsibility that Honorable Vimal Veeravansa mentioned in this house, yes, after checking with External Affairs, that it has been given to LTT sympathizer, Tamara Kumanayagam. She basically referred this matter to the P.B. Jayasundara through the Foreign Affairs, and that report has been there and it is with us. I would like you to officially table this document in the Parliament so that it is there for public probity, and through that system able to say what action will be taken against the people who have given this contract to LTT sympathizers.
At the outset, the government categorically denies the allegations contained in the question that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs doesn't conduct properly or breaks all AR and FRs. I wish to remind the Honourable Member that the power of appointments of the heads of mission to Sri Lanka is solely the prerogative of the President of Sri Lanka as head of state. I had to give you the facts, my dear member, because if I don't give you facts.
No, we are not going to.
Can you please table that report as well?
No, I don't have P.B. Jayasundara's report, but I am telling you, these are the facts that, according to your accusations, our officers are functioning very competently and following our President's. Why are you trying to deprive, calling a Tamil person LTT sympathizer? If they are not convicted, or if they are not convicted, you can't call an ordinary person LTT sympathizer. So any Tamil person should be able to win a contract and do any work in this country or abroad.
Right, Honorable
So this has my honourable member.
Right.
I don't want to waste my time.
I
don't want to waste my time. I don't want to deprime.
Please,
the way the United National Party is telling to deprive deprive the Tamil people just because they are Tamil. We don't deprive anybody just because they are of their race. There are regular audit inspections of Ministry abroad and Auditor General's department whose reports are presented to Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. You can bring these at the Public Accounts Committee.
You can follow all the developments on this story across social media platforms using the hashtag GenevaGate. Use the hashtag GenevaGate to follow all developments and join the conversation. Up next is a look at Action TV.
Better late than never. A training and development centre has been established to address this shortcoming in the Auditor General's department 215 years after the inception of the department. This centre, which was opened with 2 days to go before the retirement of the 39th Auditor General, that is on the 29th of October, will only commence operations a while after the 40th Auditor General assumes duties. This is because the construction of this complex established in Ratnapura is yet to be completed. There are plentiful examples of occasions when the opening of incomplete public institutions with much grandeur has been subject to the scrutiny of the Auditor General's department. However, it is possible that the Auditor General's department will not scrutinize the public expense borne for the grand opening of its own training and development centre. In the event that an inquiry is held, a justifiable response will not be forthcoming. This is because the official who decided to hold the grand opening for an incomplete institution has now retired. This official, who held the office for 3 years, has left a notable mark on the history of the department for a singular reason. This is because this official, who was appointed as the acting Auditor General initially, functioned in an acting capacity for a full year. The practice of appointing an official in an acting capacity to the office of Auditor General, the office tasked with being accountable for the people in Parliament in matters of public expenditure, is surely the height of distasteful policies. While the 39th Auditor General was functioning in that position in an acting capacity, Action TV placed before the country an audit report compiled by the department. This report, which was uncovered on the 17th of March 2012, implicates in the matter under investigation 3 persons including the 39th Auditor General himself. The officials were implicated as, according to the report, they had failed to prevent a fraud of over 100 million rupees at the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, being the responsible state officials. The audit report, compiled by a 2-member committee appointed by the 37th Auditor General, was entrusted to the 38th Auditor General.
I do not know where this report is. It was not submitted to me. It could have been misplaced somewhere. I have searched and I have been unable to find it.
The 39th Auditor General of Sri Lanka, who expressed these views to Action TV on the 20th of March 2012, retired on the 31st of October, having failed even by then to locate the audit report in question. It is not only the 39th Auditor General who has benefited through the misplacement of this report. More on this exposé tomorrow.
Still in local news, the 20th commemoration ceremony of late O.C. Abolishing was held in Colombo today.
Floral tributes were laid before the statue of late O.C. Abolishing situated in Paliaguda. A group including politicians attended the ceremony.
The LTTE shrewdly got rid of politicians that were needed by the country. Lakshman Kadirgama, Neelan Tiruchelvam, Kamini Dissanayaka, Ranasinghe Premadasa. All of them were destroyed by the LTTE. Today politics has become bankrupt. One of the main ideals of Aussie's political journey was to render his support to the most progressive governments, be it the SLFP or the UNP. That is why his political journey ended while on a stage along with President Ranasinghe Premadasa. We know that in the 1980s, Aussie's Abe and Vijay Kumaratunga were in prison. Some element of the opposition together with the government imprisoned Vijay and Aussie and held a devious election full of violence. We need to remember this story because there are talks about elections these days. If it is true, some with power may try to repeat what they did to Aussie and Vijay.
Vijay sa Aussie karapu de apaw karan utsa darai.
Dry rations were given to 20 selected low-income families at the ceremony.
Up next is a look at Crime Watch.
A 33-year-old individual has been arrested in connection with the murder of a woman in Wallavagedara, Kotadeniyaya. The deceased was a 60-year-old mother of 3 and was murdered while she was bathing in the Maoya. The body was found after concerns arose of her being late to return home, and the police stated that the investigations revealed that the woman had been sexually abused after being murdered. Newsfirst contacted a psychiatrist to inquire into the sociological impact caused by the constant occurrence of brutal crimes such as this.
When such men sexually abuse elderly women, it shows that they are either suffering from a mental illness or they have a personality disorder wherein they have a perverted sexual attraction towards elderly women. This is an abnormality. Since these cases are not identified early and treated in our country, this is aggravating and is fast becoming a social tragedy. Schools and parents too must identify at a very small age individuals who are stricken with such abnormalities. If they are treated when they are young, then we can prevent this from developing into a perversion that leads to sexual abuse.
The body of a 9-year-old boy was found last evening in Sanchipura in Norwood. The body was found in the backyard of the boy's house. The remains have been taken to the Navalapitiya Base Hospital for the post-mortem examination.
Yesterday, Newsfirst exposed a conspiracy aimed at preventing the UNP leader from becoming the UNP presidential candidate. Today, we highlight the various ploys used by the leadership to retain power, resulting in the further deterioration of the party. With a national election on the horizon, the nation's single largest political party remains silent and in disarray. The continuous violation of the party constitution is one of the causes of defeat. The crisis deepened when the failed leadership created positions and committees in violation of the party constitution to retain his position. The establishment of a leadership council, which is not mentioned in the party constitution. What has the party achieved through the leadership council? The creation of the positions of Deputy General Secretary and Secretary of Election Affairs, which are not mentioned in the constitution. While these positions enable the appointment of friends and the mollification of reformists, can they really bring victory to the party? Isn't the recently appointed G20 committee too another toothless entity like the leadership council? Shouldn't the unconstitutional leadership council be dissolved immediately? Unconstitutional positions should be abolished as well. Can the UNP regain its past glory through another unconstitutional temporary political contraption such as the G20? The continuous erosion of the party's voter base is a clear indication of the failure of these maneuvers. The only ends met have been the retention of power by the leadership and 28 election defeats in 17 years. A strong opposition is essential for meaningful democracy in a country. As a responsible independent media institution, it is with this intent that we point out flaws in the opposition just as we do the government. Let's get ready for an election. UNPers, let us rise.
Democratic Party Western Provincial Councillor Susil Kindelpitiya attended a meeting in the Imbuguri area in Mahara yesterday.
අපි නායකයෙක් තෝරගන්නකොට ඒ නායකයාගේ තිබියුතු ගුණාංග අපි හොයාගෙන යනවා.
When we are selecting a leader, we look for qualities that this leader should have. What are those qualities? They must love their country. He or she must love the motherland. The leader should not be corrupt. He or she must be able to stand for social justice and uphold the rule of law. Can leaders with all these qualities be kicked out? Therefore, the day that the people punish this government before the court of the people is not far behind.
Now, what prompted the ban imposed on several ice cream manufacturers in Jaffna? While authorities have given differing accounts, politicians and civilians too claim that there are ulterior motives behind the ban.
A ban was imposed several weeks ago on 59 ice cream and cool drink manufacturers in Jaffna, citing health and safety concerns, according to the Northern Province Health Director. While the licenses of 29 manufacturers were reportedly reinstated, the Jaffna District Frozen and Refrigerated Food Manufacturers Association says that they have not been informed of such reinstatement.
இன்றைய பத்திரிகையில் 29 நிறுவனங்கள் மீளவும் திறக்க அனுமதிக்கப்பட்டதாக.
It was reported in the newspapers. So we made inquiries from our members regarding the statement reportedly made that they had been informed of their licenses being reinstated by the local health office. However, they noted that the prohibition on their companies has not been lifted as yet. All of the companies whose licenses have been reinstated are large-scale businesses. The ban has only been lifted for their subsidiaries.
உற்பத்தி நிறுவனங்கள் எவைக்கும் இதுவரைக்கும் அனுமதி வழங்கப்பட்டதாக எமது சங்க அங்கத்தவர்கள் எமக்கு அறிவிக்கவில்லை.
Allegations are being leveled that there is another reason for the ban on the ice cream manufacturers.
சுகாதாரத்தை நாங்கள் உறுதிப்படுத்துகின்றோம்.
We must protect public health. But we see this as a step to destroy the self-employed under the guise of public health. We see this as a step taken by the government to destroy the Tamil people's economy and turn them into employees. Jaffna is an area where products from the south can be brought in and there will be good business. Ice cream companies have large revenues in Jaffna. We see this as a step to destroy Tamil entrepreneurs here. Such a step cannot be taken in the south.
அவர்களுடைய முதலீட்டிலிருந்து அவர்கள் அழிந்து போகக்கூடிய வகையிலே அவர்கள் இந்த நடவடிக்கைகளை எடுத்திருக்க முடியாது.
The public say that the situation must be resolved expeditiously.
The ban has been imposed on ice cream that is manufactured here. It has a major impact on us.
They are giving false reasons and are preparing to close down the ice cream manufacturers. We can no longer enjoy the taste of ice cream from Jaffna. This has had a major effect on the manufacturers and on us too. Meanwhile, it was reported in the newspapers today that about 30 people suffer from stomach aches daily in Jaffna.
இன்றைய பத்திரிகையில் வந்து 300
We made inquiries from the local hospitals and the Jaffna Teaching Hospital regarding the newspaper report. They said that there are no such patients in the hospitals. This sort of public misinformation must be stopped immediately. We condemn this.
Speaking at a conference organized by a civil rights organization held in Chennai, India today. Speaking at the event, the Chief Minister of the Northern Province, C.V. Ganeshwaran, expressed the following views.
It has become the target of the government to obstruct us in every sector. The people of the Northern Province taught the government a good lesson at the concluded provincial council election as they attempted to portray that the province was developed by using international funds to build roads, money from the Indian government to build railway lines and money from international companies to put up buildings. The government has taken steps to bring Sinhala people from the south and settle them in the north. Homes have been built for the army and notably Sinhala GAs have been appointed in areas populated by Tamil-speaking people. Through this, we can clearly understand the stance of the central government. Using the slogan, "The Tigers are coming, the Tigers are coming," they are maintaining a 150,000 personnel strong security presence in the north today. They interfere in the day-to-day lives of the rural people. The status of women there too has become very dangerous. The culture in the Northern Province today is that we acquire the land, cultivate it and then sell the harvest to ourselves. If we were to speak the truth about the situation in the country, they will say that we are connected with the Tigers and will hold inquiries against us. In truth, leaders of that organization who committed major crimes are today guests of the government and are living large. The young men and women who committed minor crimes are spending several years in prison. Psychologically, they have fallen greatly. Every attempt that we have made to secure their release have failed.
In business news this evening, Free Trade Zones and General Services Employees Union says that most of the government activities are carried out using the money of the Employee Provident Fund. Co-Secretary of the Union, Anton Marcus, made these remarks at a media briefing this morning.
We know that the government does not have money. The government is running completely on loans that are taken from foreign countries and the loans taken from the EPF. The Employee Provident Fund has 1.2 trillion rupees. This is the largest fund in Asia. 92% of this is taken as loans by the government. The central bank is the caretaker of the fund. The bank does not have the money. The money is only there in documents. There are journal entries but no money. The money has been taken by the government. Every task that is undertaken by the government is done with this money.
Today people celebrate the fall of the Berlin Wall. 25 years since German citizens pulled down the wall, we had an opportunity to take a look at this historic occasion from an international and local perspective. Newsfirst Elena Schaefer filed this report.
25 years ago, the Berlin Wall, which separated Germany into West and East, was torn down by German citizens in what has become a defining moment of the late 20th century. Removing the wall became a symbol of the end of the Cold War. It was the raising of the Iron Curtain that fell across Europe following the end of World War II. It is not easy to restart a country. We in Sri Lanka know this only too well after decades of civil war. We spoke to the German ambassador to Sri Lanka, Dr. Jürgen Morhardt, about the German experience of reunification and lessons that can be learned here.
The most complicated issue was in East Germany was those living in former East Germany and who felt they lived in a system of injustice and how I can get my justice back. There it was our way, open up. Get out with the truth, deal with the past, get into terms with the past, let people speak, let people know what happened, do an open process. So it's very difficult to compare it really because completely different society and roots and causes, political circumstances, but in the very end people will always be unhappy and will not come into terms with their own past or reconcile if you don't accept the facts they want to reconcile with. Reconciliation is not only between people, you also have to find peace of your mind in yourself. And this is very important that everybody has a chance to.
People all over the world celebrate the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall as a symbolic act of freedom and bridging boundaries. 25 years later, though, as the 21st century world faces a whole new set of challenges, we wonder whether the story of Berlin has been lost in symbolism. Elena Schäfer, News First.
Moving on to sports news now, there was a silver lining for Sri Lanka today in their so far disastrous tour of India, as Maharaja Vardhana added another feather to his cap. However, the euphoria was short-lived as Sri Lanka were beaten by 6 wickets, having scored only 242 runs before being bowled out.
After opting to bat first, it could have been worse for the tourists as they were 158 for 7. However, former skipper Mahela Jayawardena top scored with 118 runs off 124, which included 12 fours and a 6. Incidentally, Jayawardena became the 5th batsman in the world to cross the 12,000 run mark in one-day internationals. Following a poor start, Jayawardena and Dilshan put on a promising partnership of 105 runs before Dilshan was dismissed by Rayudu for 53. As for the hosts, Umesh Yadav finished with career best figures of 4 for 53, while Akshar Patel picked up 3 for 40. In response, India overhauled the Lankan score in 44.1 overs, losing just 4 wickets. The Indians were led by a strong opening partnership of 62 between Shekhar Dhawan and Ajinkya Rahane. Dhawan went on to score 91 before he nicked one to wicketkeeper Kumar Sangakkara off Nuwan Kulasekara. Virat Kohli then strung together 2 partnerships, first with Dhawan for 70, then with Raina for 35 to put the game out of reach for the Lankans. For the Lankans, Kulasekara, Thisara Pereira and Dilshan took a wicket each. The win gives India an unassailable 3-0 lead in the 5-match series.
There it is. Neitha Phelan 3-0 up in the 5-match series.
Up next is a look at the bitter truth.
In 2011, The Bitter Truth first revealed that the cradle of Sri Lankan hockey, the Nandimitra Ekanayaka International Hockey Stadium, was in urgent need of renovation. The bitter truth also highlighted the despondency that could arise for the sport and the athletes through the failure to reconstruct the hockey stadium, which comes under the purview of the Matale Municipal Council. The synthetic turf needs to undergo essential maintenance once every 5 years. It has been 11 years now since the turf was laid. This should be done through the Sports Ministry. Although 3 years have passed since the bitter truth exposé, the authorities are yet to turn their attention towards renovating this hockey pitch. The footage portrays the current state of this turf. When the players are on the field, the turf comes apart and flips onto the other side. There is a danger for everyone who plays here. In some sections, mud has collected and players can slip and fall. Layers are peeling off. The Matale hockey turf, opened in 2000, is the only international hockey stadium in the country outside Colombo. While 9 years have passed since the expiration of the synthetic turf laid here, the mayor of Matale, Hilmi Karim, claims that financial allocations have not been made to relay the turf. He says that requests have been made from the Minister of Sports and the new Ministry Secretary for financing. Although the mayor expresses belief that renovation will commence next month, according to Sports Minister Mahinda Nandaluth-Gamage, there will be no such undertaking. When Sports first made inquiries, the minister noted that the synthetic turf at the stadium is not the responsibility of the ministry. He says that as a result, it is difficult to make financial allocations. The minister added that he would make every effort to secure financing next year. All of this makes it evident that sports authorities who see dreams of mega tournaments show little enthusiasm towards protecting these valuable resources. Is this because the Matale hockey turf is not located in a town that is part of the political power project? Open for debate.
Bela Bartok and Franz Liszt are two of the most inspirational and renowned composers who brought to life some of the hidden traits of Hungarian music which have inspired the culture of that country. Now, as the culture of a country is determined by religion, art and traditions, Newsfirst takes a look at one of the most neglected but integral parts of culture, music. Newsfirst Stephanie Lazarus filed this report.
Of its many cultural trends and traditions, Hungary's music, particularly folk music, remains an important part of the country's cultural identity. While many European countries considered music as a byproduct of a country's culture, Hungarian musicians such as Bela Bartok and Franz Liszt overturned that notion by inspiring young musicians of Hungary to consider music as the heart of culture. Hungary's celebrated musicians, clarinetist Peter Horváth and pianist Béta Gincsai, bear testament to this as their love for music is reflected by their passionate performances.
Béta, how was your experience learning in the Franz Liszt Academy? And even when I went through your profile, I found out that you were a student of Jenő Jandó.
Sharing her experience of learning under famous pianist and composer Jenő Jandó, who also played a role in inspiring Hungarian culture through music, Béta Gincsai, who recently visited Sri Lanka, says that her love for music started at the age of 4.
First, I am so lucky because when I was a young girl, age of 3 or 4, I said my mom, I want to be a pianist. And I went to learn in Franz Liszt Academy of Music. It was great. It was amazing. And Jandó Jenő, my previous teacher, is a fantastic pianist, you know, and real musician. She plays with his heart, not just with technique. And I really enjoyed his teaching.
Despite being unique in its own way, Hungarian music is considered as one of the country's most important contributions to the culture of the European continent in general. At a time when lesser-known forms of indigenous music are losing popularity, the efforts taken to preserve the contribution of music to the diverse cultural identities of humanity are truly inspirational.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of News First Weekend. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great week ahead of you. Good night.